Mhm. All right, guys, and what is going on once again? This is the Club of the Man, 1993, and I am coming at you for my first of two, actually technically second of three live streams tonight, because I have my live stream presentation. Since tonight we had the return of the PowerPoint presentations for Drew Gulak in tonight's episode of 205 Live. But this is the second live stream I've done today. The first one was my predictions for WWE Super Showdown, take place this Saturday. I'm not sure again, when this week I'll be able to watch it, but I will definitely watch it I'll check out when I can, as I said before. But we're here to talk about tonight's episode of 205 Live, the October 3rd, 2018 edition. Overall, this episode wasn't bad. But looking back at it for being like a go-home show, I mean, the only thing we really had, for being a go-home show before Super Showdown was just like a couple video package for the match between Cedric Alexander and Buddy Murphy, which will be awesome. Other than that, though, it wasn't one of the strongest shows of 205 Live I've seen. The main event was pretty good. The other match that happened wasn't bad either. What happened after the match, though, scratch my head a little bit about it. Of course, that is calling for a turn alert. My turn alert presentation. Whenever I do put up the green screen, get around to doing the turn alert, obviously. Of course, I'll talk about that a little bit more in the turn alert, but we'll discuss that a little bit in this live review tonight of 205 Live. So let's get started with this live review of 205 Live. Again, the October 3rd, 2018 edition of 205 Live. And like last night's edition of SmackDown Live, since 205 Live is now taped before SmackDown Live. It took place in Portland, Oregon. Of course, even though there's not a lot of people in the crowd yet, it's still, is a more hyped audience. Of course, they do have to bring phone ring. They do have to bring the full sale for it to be topped off. And as I keep saying, have people, do more in this 205 Live. We kind of saw it also on NXT, but I don't think it's a long-term thing. But anyways, let's get right to it. So we start off, of course, with Drake Maverick, the babyface general manager, Drake Maverick, not the Authors of Pain's manager, Drake Maverick. Hype us up for Saturday's match and informs that he'll be checking in on how Alexander and Murphy are preparing. Then he tells us the stories behind tonight's matches, which the first match is Akira Tazawa and gentleman Jack Gallagher, who apparently is fighting. Again, I think it was for, just to stand up for, the fact that Tazawa put the Brian Kendrick on the shelf for a few weeks, as it seemed to be. So that's what's happening with this match. The match wasn't bad, but as I continue to see this heel run with Jack Gallagher get longer and longer, I just don't see a mean streak in him. I just don't see a villainous side to him. I just don't know if it's just me or it's just I just see him more as a baby face and more entertaining in that. And just, I just don't see him across as a threat. I mean, yes, he did kind of mock the crowd a little bit, saying no, whatnot. And he had a couple of vicious assaults looking on Tazawa and what happened after the match, of course. We'll get that shortly. I just still don't think Jack Gallagher is meant to be in a heel role. I don't think. I think it's time we do push to turn Jack Gallagher babyface games. I feel like that's the role. Like him being that and a little more entertaining. That's him pretty much. I get the whole idea with him turning heel last year. Wasn't watching 205 Live that much at all last year. Was the fact that he was tired of being looked at as a joke and a clown, whatnot. But still, that's him. I just see that more in him. The match wasn't too bad. It was kind of physical. Told a decent story. Tazawa eventually gets the win, even though Gulak and Kendrick don't really try to, break up the cover. I mean, they tried a couple small distractions, but nothing too big that this alliance of three would usually do. Tazawa eventually gets the win, though, with that senton fall. So after the match, though, this is where things got a little strange. Drew Gulak got on a microphone, and he said it's come to his attention that their team isn't living up to their full potential. So he directs his partners and the simple people in the arena to an old teaching tool of his it's the return of his PowerPoint presentation. So, which is Drew Gulak's plan for a better 205 Live. So he said, I believe he picked up with slide 10. And when slide 10 came on, it's a drawing of the Brian Kendrick begging for no mercy. And Gulak starts to just run down and just verbally attack Kendrick, calling him like, the weak link, calling him dead weight and whatnot. And he's running down Kendrick until Kendrick snaps. He turns and starts attacking Drew Gulak, but Gentleman Jack Gallagher makes it a 2-on-1 assault on the Brian Kendrick. And he beats them down. Eventually they get down, and it looks like that the Brian Kendrick is no longer a part of this alliance with Drew Gulak and Jack Gallagher. I'm not sure how I feel about the Brian Kendrick. If they were going to break up this alliance, I thought maybe they'll break up Gulak from both of them. So he was saying that obviously, this team is not lived up to its full potential. But I was really surprised that it was Kendrick. Because you think about it, when the Brian Kendrick was out, he came back, he won his match fairly quickly. But then Gentleman Jack Gallagher loses. And I feel like in most of the matches, we've seen Gallagher losing. So I was surprised that he wasn't the one kicked out. As I pitched, I should have a PowerPoint presentation as to why Gentleman Jack Gallagher should be a babyface and not a heel. So I'm not sure how I completely feel about the Brian Kendrick being the one to be kicked out of the group. But I don't want to say too much because I want to save it for when I do a turnover, which I'll probably try to do later on. Obviously, the Brian Kendrick is in a babyface role now, as it seems to be. I'm not 100% sure, but that's what it's looking to be. But we'll have to wait and see what happens here. But again, I'm not too sure if I would have turned Kendrick. I had Kendrick be the one to be kicked off. Again, this is because Gulak's just jealous that Kendrick was the cruiserweight champion, or as I love his plan. I'm the man of the plan. Yes, he's gotten injured a lot. They've defended him a lot, doing his dirty work maybe. So I don't know, maybe that's why. Again, I would have rather had it been Gallagher, not Kendrick. But I'll talk about it more when I do my turn alert for the Brian Kendrick. Anyways, afterwards we see clips of the sit down interview last week between Cedric Alexander and Buddy Murphy. They're training in the Performance Center, and they're both bound to win in Melbourne. Then we get Caleb Braxton talking to Drake Maverick about what happened with Tommy and Ali last week. Gives them both a week off to recover, but he knows things aren't done between them. The next time they face off, it'll be a match no one wants to miss, which obviously is going to be a huge match with a stipulation. I don't think we're getting it next week, though. We only had one thing advertised next week, which is an open challenge from Leo Rush. But maybe next week, the following week, we could be in for a big match between Hideo Itami and Mustafa Ali, as it's been, a physical match. And again, I'm very curious as to see what stipulation they put for these two later on. Could it be I quit? Could it be, false count anywhere? Could it be a street fight? Extreme rules? I think we're in for something with this blood feud, as we've seen. First blood? No, we can't do that. It's the PG era. Unfortunately, we cannot do first blood. But I'm very interested to see what stipulation Drake Maverick puts on the match. And then finally, we got our main event: Kalisto taking on TJP. For not really being like that big of a deal of a match. And this feels like a match that would be more so the supplemental storyline that's going on between of the show. We were like a first match, like a main event. Wasn't too bad of a match, I'd say. I thought TJP and Kalisto worked very well together. Of course, two of them probably vying for an eventual cruiserweight championship shots with former cruiserweight champions. But I thought TJP and Kalisto had a lot of great moments in this match. And then Kalisto eventually does get the victory, rolling up a TJP. But after the match, TJP attacks Kalisto. And just like he did to, I believe it was Grand Metalik was one of the other two members of the Lucha House Party. He rips off the mask. He rips off Kalisto's mask. Kalisto covers his face in a towel, and with all of disrespect, he just continues to disrespect Lucha Libre heritage or whatnot we call it, ripping off the mask. So not a bad match. I'm not sure where this is going to go to. Maybe this leads to eventually one of these two getting a Cruiserweight Championship shot. Maybe I'm not sure, but again, it was one of the weaker episodes of 205. I was going to give this a C+ at first, this episode, because the match with Tazawa and Gallagher wasn't bad. But again, the stuff with the turn of D. Brian Kendrick, I'm not sure how I feel about it, because I don't feel D. Brian Kendrick should have been the one to turn against Fellowship and Gallagher. But in the match with Kalisto and TJP wasn't bad, but it's like, what's this stuff really leading to? I don't know. I just wasn't feeling it. It was just not too much content we brought to the table tonight. But so I'll give this episode of 205 Live a B-. B- for 205 Live, guys. What grade would you give 205 Live for this week? Please let us down in the comment section below. And as always, sure to click buy, like, and subscribe. Or come to my channel. Follow me on Twitter, DeManReport93. And I'll be right back up here in a few more minutes to do my live review of this week's episode of NXT. So stay tuned, guys. See you all then.